Hello, my name's Ephie, and this poem is called Normal Like Me. This poem was inspired probably by events occurring after a little accident I had when I was 17, bad experience skiing, hit a tree, I was in a coma for 10 days, 10 days I think, and I was in the hospital for a few months, a little bit of a brain injury. I'm better now. And afterwards, there were a series of doctor's appointments where they would try, neurologists who don't know much about the brain, would try to determine how damaged I was. And I was so steadfast in trying to convince them there was nothing wrong with me, even when there was. And that feeling of frustration is really what inspired this poem called Normal Like Me. I hope you like it. I am conflicted and confused, addicted to being used and using, cyclically stuck to losing without bad luck or the big old bruising, but my life won't suck, save my own choosing the grave over gravely mistaken, which is not to be taken but for a grain if there's no more aching in the back of my brain, and there isn't. My head's gone from healing to healed. And now that my friend in the ceiling is sailing, meaning my mind is no longer ailing or prone to forgiving the frequent failing of fabulous living and 9-inch nailing, not to be heavily weighted, I meant I'm recuperated, 100%. 10 years I spent in steady ascent, climbing steel stairs like a crippled Clark Kent. I may be emphatically overdramatic and range from severe to the slightly erratic and strange. There were seeds and static in the attic that bleeds, or bled, perhaps. The needs of my head to relapse or release, so I'm not apt to collapse, deceased, desisting, or at least detecting a flaw and quickly protecting under martial law of the land it's affecting. So here I am, of my own free will, ready to stand perfectly still and request or demand a clean bill on my dirty hand before I'm 30 and 1 and 2, so on, so you can make sure I'm gone and we're through and never utter a word untrue. You can't question progression in and out of session, not to mention fading out, upgrading attention to doubt, creating tension about, contemplating ascension from tensons and 2 steps for no pension in a pink slip. So you think it, and your mind's in a vice grip, don't slip. Have faith. Believe that shit. Just wait. Don't blink. Don't hate. Don't drink. Don't date. Don't think. And don't create a bad vibe and indelible ink on the inside of blah, 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 blah. I've heard it. It's assertive with essentially less than a practical word of a way to progress. Proactive and counterproductive. Constricting. Distracting. Destructive if I'm listing the long-lasting potential damage existing when you're grasping for grease and the promise of peace for none but 2 pence. And at least common sense can police the mind to stop being dense and leave it behind. Where were we? My sanity. I don't see clowns when I'm not at the circus. I'm not damaged or down. I just have quirks, how quickly a quack can kill what works. And my will is waning from weaning off weed, abstaining from speed. And I'm not complaining, but cleaning my closet is draining. Driving through dreary night's rain is insanely insipid when you can't even tip it to tails when your first wave fails and you feel like the wrong end of a raw deal. But I still survived. With a little wishing and contrition contrived, addition by omission. So I never lied, you see. Dishonest honesty, honestly promise me promises never get broken with lies unspoken, winking eyes wide open. I'm thinking you'd blush if I offered a good green flush for a zip lip and a hush-hush. A good tip for services rendered and well earned with the promise the sender will never return if nothing's remembered and nobody's burned. Oh, don't look at me so disgusted. I'm normal, and normally not to be trusted. I'll trade the truth for a treat or a tryst. No man I meet need twist my wrist. I'm wanting and weak as proof I exist. It's the fashion since creation. Indiscretion, experimentation, obsession with sensation. You don't question temptation when it tends to your needs. Not if you're normal. Normal like me. Number 2 rolling. This is called Letter to an Old Friend. It's about the part of you inside that will do all it can to just destroy you and you never quite can get rid of. Again, I hope you like it. I'm just a sheep in wolves' clothing, supremely self-loathing and self-destructive, powerfully counterproductive, more than slightly seductive, if not so easily seduced by a perfectly placed noose above my waist left loose in case I jones for the taste of my own brittle bones. But I'm fine, for now, to whine and wax, ignoring the facts of specific place and time-defacing acts I've committed, half-baked and witted, admitting to crimes that I'll soon be acquitted, for these are hard times, and although I did it, the proof is precisely where I never hid it. Wisely, I see the practical meaning of drying off dreaming and trying my hand at a life on land, without ever landing or leaning toward a mature understanding of moving forward. Let's take a moment to digest or disagree. But I digress, feeling free to measure success on a life of leisure and a longing for less. Belonging, believing that loving's a prelude to leaving. So summon what's comin' to the common woman. Live for the lovin' and grow from the grievin'. We know that even though the liars are leaving their brand new hires when their pips are popped and they're brandished by the better buyers, we're free to fault the fool who refused the flyers, or at least neglected the rejected piece that should have connected finite dreams to the fool affected. Though vanity sanity sadly accepted in its seeming sense and skill of confidence and consequence and free will, freewheeling until you start feeling the falling of failing to find your calling by killing the warning from yesterday morning. Tragic that weaning off often can seem like a coffin of bad dreams and drizzling sorrow, whistling tonight's woe into tomorrow's subtle sadness of status quo, and suddenly madness seems so appealing to temper that fucked up feeling of hate and doubt and daily dealing about hurting through healing, asserting self-help from someone else. And it does help. In the beginning, you're gaining, even grinning, until it starts raining. And then there's no winning but whine and complaining, desperate disdain for the desperate in pain, arranging the strange stage of aging and rage, ranging from start to center stage. I'm clenching my fist, sensing it's best to rest my wrist or risk arrest. At last, my list, existing in mind, persisting in visions, division divine, developing clues in yellow and blues, bellowing rhyme and relevant truths. Hell, if it isn't a prison of pride, living a lose from deep inside, raising the creep from the crypt where I kept him, assigned to assist in soothing my septum, but the gift of grief turned to grief when I realized the thief I created to fill a hole is on too high a roll and out of control, contriving a new way to keep on surviving, left barely alive and it's thoroughly thriving, unduly delayed and cannily conniving, unruly arrested for drunk driving with a chick in the trunk and a trick train to ride stick in the front. At best, to be blunt, he's testing my limits, the run to still resting the rest of me in it. So farewell, old friend. I'll pray or pretend to be better at the bitter end of this long letter. I'll never send or rescind or comprehend completely the nicely formed, neatly phonetic phrases, poetically following fits and phases of grieving and growing, leaving alone the undead and as yet unknown.
I said, hey baby, do you think we could talk? 'Cause you're a beauty I've never seen. She told me that I was the cock of the walk, and I don't even know what